Mr. Hans von Spakovsky, you're now recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the invitation to be here today. As I was coming down here, I was reminded of the fact that many members of the committee probably know I've testified in front of congressional hearings numerous times, but the first time I ever did that was more than 2 decades ago at a field hearing in Atlanta after the 2000 election, when Congress was trying to determine what kind of reforms should be put in to try to prevent the kind of problems we saw in Florida from happening again. And that led to the passage of the Help America Vote Act, a bipartisan effort. I really regret the fact that there is this bipartisan divide has developed since then, because that didn't exist in 2002 when Congress did things in the Help America Vote Act, like pass the first, although limited, voter ID requirement for federal elections. We need both access and security in our election process, and contrary to what many critics say, one does not cancel out the other. The kind of common sense reforms as Georgia passed are prime examples of providing both access and security. Congress has to keep in mind that states have had the primary role in administering our elections. That's what the Constitution says since our founding, under the ultimate supervision of Congress and under the protections of the Constitution and federal laws passed pursuant to it, like the Voting Rights Act. The role of federal government should be to assist and help the states in their administration of elections, not imposing unjustified, unconstitutional, and impractical mandates on them, which is what H.R. 1, the For the People Act, would have done, including things like banning all voter ID laws in the country, a requirement that's overwhelmingly supported by Americans, no matter their race or political background. This bill does good things like mandate access for the states to federal databases, such as the Department of Homeland Security's alien database. You have to be a citizen to vote in federal elections. You have to be a citizen to vote in all state elections in all states. The exception is some states allow that in local elections. But clearly, that's relevant to your eligibility, and yet the Department of Homeland Security for years, through bureaucracy and red tape, has made it so difficult for states to get that information that most state election officials will tell you they've given up trying to do it. Another clear source of information, and I don't know why anyone would be against this, is federal courts call people for jury duty, and I'm sure most of the people in this room have been called for jury duty. They get their jury lists from state election officials. When someone is excused from jury duty in a federal court, and remember, they have to answer questions under oath, because they say, I am not a U.S. citizen, that information needs to be sent back to state election officials, yet today it is not. And the amendment in this bill to the NVRA that would require that is a good thing. So is the amendment that's proposed in this bill to the Real ID Act. Again, the major form of ID used in this country, because we don't have a national ID card, are state driver's licenses. Obviously, those driver's licenses should state on their face whether you are a U.S. citizen or not. And that would be useful not only in the voting context, but also in many others, such as applications for federal welfare benefits, which in most cases require you to be a U.S. citizen. One of the most, look, many parts of this bill deal with election administrations and providing assistance to the states. But I got to tell you, one of the most important provisions in here is Title VI, which would terminate all federal dollars for and end the disinformation board set up by DHS, which is this administration's version of an Orwellian Ministry of Truth. I cannot believe that the federal government has been engaging in censoring Americans' viewpoints and opinions. That was something my parents thought we had left behind when my German mother, who grew up in Nazi Germany, immigrated to this country with my Russian father. And yet we've had it going on here. The federal government has no business determining what is the truth or engaging in any actions that censor information, opinions, and viewpoints of American citizens. I can talk a lot about how turnout in Georgia not only was above the national average turnout in 2022, but was higher than the turnout of the three home states of the biggest critics. The turnout in Georgia was higher than Delaware, New York, and California, and yet the state has been criticized. Let me end with this. I want to ensure that every eligible American is able to vote, that their votes are not diluted because of fraud, errors, mistakes made by election officials. I think the ACE Act will do that by helping the states and not telling them what to do in often what could be a bad way. And those changes to protect First Amendment rights are vitally important, because being able to speak politically in the election area is vital to maintaining our democracy.
Thank you very much, Mr. von Spakovsky.